My guests today are relationship experts, truly, and they have a lifetime of wisdom to share with us. So welcome, John and Helen, to 700 Club Canada once again.
We are so blessed to be here with you today. Thank you for having us.
Well, let me pick on John right away. Okay, John, we can't pretend that things are perfect, right? You guys are very real about your relationship. I love it. Tell me, John, what about the struggle in communication in your marriage? Do tell.
Communication is I think the greatest struggle for every marriage. And our problem was that we're so different, like everybody, opposites attract. And then you actually have to figure out how to do this thing. And I think that one of the greatest keys that we have learned over the years, 47 years of marriage, is to actually value the relationship above the issue. Because every relationship's got issues. So often those issues come up and we think they're everything, and we'll attack that issue and disregard the relationship.
Wow, that's golden. Helen, what do you see? What have been the challenges for you in this area of communication in your marriage?
Well, it's funny because I thought I was such a great communicator because I talked so much. I was very fluent in talking, and John is much more, he's quieter in that, in how we engaged. And I had to learn to stop talking so much and to listen more. I had to hear what John was really, where his heart was at. I just assumed I knew him, and was to discover that I really didn't. And so opening up our hearts to one another and to really study how we like to be communicated with, not an assumption that he likes to be talked to exactly the way that I do, giving grace to one another, taking the time to listen above talking was so key for me. And I discovered that we really are really good communicators if we put, like John said, the relationship ahead of whatever the challenge is. And I think that's true in every relationship. And if it's about me being right and you hearing just what I have to say, we're going to both lose. But when we value each other and listen to one another, it's beautiful what can be built out of that.
Wow, that's so good. I believe you're 100% right. But sometimes, there's tough conversations that have to happen, right? And we're maybe afraid to have those hard conversations. So, how do we have conversations in marriage when, frankly, we disagree or it's a really significant issue, if I can say?
Well, I think disagreement is normal.
Yeah.
Okay. Every marriage has disagreement, but disrespect is not acceptable.
No.
And so when we have a hard conversation, Helen's the pro at this.
John and I had to do is make ground rules.
Yeah.
When we decided we are going to build this house for God, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. We didn't have an option anymore. We had to figure out how to have a healthy disagreement. We called it a good fight. And so we literally had rules of engagement, and we had to lay down ground rules. Things like, is this a good time to talk about something? Is something I want to talk to you about that I think will make our relationship better? And when I would say that to John, initially, he'd always thought, really, do we have to do this? But we've learned the value of it. But we think about things like, what is it I really want? Often we complain about something, but we're never going to get what we want by complaining about it. And I have discovered that behind every complaint, there is a secret longing that isn't being met. So how can I ask for what I need? And how can I say it in a way that he can actually hear me? And so John and I have learned to come into that discussion with a sense of honor and respect. Is this a good time? Put away our devices, turn off the TV, engage with one another, and then listen to one another. And again, we're not fighting each other. We get around, as John says, in a fighting ring and put our arms around each other rather than come out swinging and decide that we're going to attack the issue, not the person. And I think every relationship has to establish what those ground rules are. And once you do, you operate with them with respect and with honor.
I think one of the keys that Helen does so well is presents like a safety net. Mm-hmm. She'll say to me, John, I love you. I love how our marriage has grown and we've changed and so many great things. And I think there's one thing that we could talk about that might make it even better. Mm-hmm. So I don't feel like this is the end of the world if we go into it. There's an invitation that it's actually going to get better.
Yeah.
Well, I think you've hit it right on the head. You've said valuing one another, it start at the
Mm.
core, and a safety net. It has to be safe, right? Like you can't go into conversations feeling unsafe or you'll go into self-protection mode. What are some practical things then? You've already given some, which are so helpful, but give us some more practical ideas that people can help them in their communication in marriage. And some, maybe some things that you've applied in your own life.
Well, often we're asked the thing, how do you stay in love for a lifetime? The
Mm,
answer is stay amazed. But that requires that you actually do the treasure hunting. Every person is full of amazing. And my wife, I mean, 47 years, the more I know, the more I want to know. And the more I know, I don't know. And when you're in a conversation, if you're trying to discover the treasures, you will find them. And to me, that's been a key in our relationship.
And I think that simple principle in the book of James, it talks about be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. It doesn't say don't be angry because there's something that we're mad about. There's something that we're really upset about. But if we take the time to be slow to speak, and we have to have time to engage. So don't do it in a hurry. Don't do it when you're mad, but do first listen with the intent to learn, and then speak when it's the right time, and then anger follows afterwards. And I think when I make a decision that I am upset about this, I am angry about this, but I'm going to ask for what I need in a way that is not disrespectful. I think often we think if we're angry, something is wrong with the relationship. Not necessarily. It just needs something needs to be resolved. But when you do it in where you have enough time to do it in an atmosphere of kindness and safety, it's an invitation. And John and I have had a lot of fights. We're not going to lie. And when I say fights, it doesn't mean attacking each other. We did in our early years of marriage, but that's why we value now when there's disagreement, now when something is broken in our relationship, we work quickly. It says, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. So we try to resolve it quickly. And we have discovered the strength we've gained in our relationship because we've been willing to do the hard work. Rather than running away from the battle, we run to the battle and we resolve it in a way that brings a resolution for both of us. And that makes us win in relationships.
100%. I love that. I love that you can move together, whether one prefers to avoid and one prefers to come in, you're finding a middle ground. Well, we'll be back with more stories and advice from John and Helen Burns.